Hey everyone, this is Gio from Rebalancing Health, and today I'm gonna talk about raw food, cooked food, and fermented food. Is an extension of my video about soaking nuts to reduce anti-nutrients from those food. So raw food, if we consume raw food from animal sources, is much less problematic than from vegetables, as long as that food is being prepared in an environment which is sterilized, sanitized, clean, and doesn't have bad bacteria spread all over. You will be fine. One example is a raw milk. You won't find raw milk in the shelf. Actually, you do. There is a company that do cold press milk. Basically, they utilize a process of extraction that will skip the pasteurization process. Why better raw? Because comes in with the enzyme that helps you to digest that food better. All raw food, all food, vegetables and animal product, they have enzyme on them that helps you to break down those macronutrients. For instance, protease to break down protein, lipase to break down fats. So if you consume, for instance, carpaccio, which is raw thinly sliced meat, or fish carpaccio, that will come in with enzyme that helps you to absorb that food better in the sense that the body itself will have less work to do or less work to do to break down that food, because the body can inside produce in the mouth, in the pancreas, produce those enzymes, but it's got to be produced during the chewing process, during the digestive process, and if you have cooked that food and that food has a less enzyme, there will be a need of a more enzyme produced by the body. So some of us lack some of those enzymes. For instance, lactase is one, a big one that a lot of us don't have anymore because of lack of exposure. And so choosing some raw milk instead of pasteurized milk is much better. Even Louis Pasteur, the man who invented pasteurization, he said it's not about the element, it's not about the milk being bad for the person or having bad bacteria. It's about the environment where the milk is being gathered, preserved, or stored. So that's the why consumption of raw food, it is safe. It can enhance the nutrient absorption of certain macronutrients. For the vegetable kingdom is a bit different. Like I mentioned before, vegetable have all those anti-nutrient inside. It's got goitrogen, which is present in a lot of leafy green vegetables, in cabbage, and that affect your thyroid, consequently affect your thyroid, and all the other can have a snowball effect on all the other hormones produced by all the other endocrine glands. Then we have oxalate. Oxalate is another compound, which is another anti-nutrient that can bind to calcium, and if in excess can lead to kidney stone and eventually to kidney failure, which is not a fun thing to have. And so cooking and soaking it, soaking those type of food, like for instance kale, it's not wise to have a lot of kale cold pressed juices because of goitrogen, because of oxalate. Instead, by cooking it, steaming it, pan fried it, that will help to eliminate those anti-nutrients and consequently make other nutrients in the kale more available, more bioavailable. Fermenting it is another one. Through the fermentation, we have increasing nutrient absorption, because the fermentation helps to break down those anti-nutrients. Like gluten, has been shown that through sourdough processing, gluten content reduce, phytic acid completely goes, and especially after when we baking the bread, that helps to completely eliminate the phytic acid. And that's the reason why we would be more mindful of the preparation, because we want to increase the nutrient absorption, nutritional absorption of the food that we're consuming. Especially if we're consuming in let's say in a larger amount, larger amount from different sources of food, is wise to prepare it wisely. Those practices of soaking it, fermenting it, roasting it, have been used for hundreds of years, and for that particular reason, because we figured out that was a much better way to than consuming that food and absorbing nutrients much better. A friend asked me, for instance, about what do I thought about vegan protein powder. I'm not a fan of it, just because if you look at the back of the container, most of the ingredients that they use now, they fermented. They fermented because they wanted to make those nutrients inside of those elements, inside of the food, brown rice, mostly golden pea, more bioavailable. And at the same time, I'm not a big fan because it comes from vegetables, and vegetables as such are not the best source of bioavailable protein. Protein are much more absorbable and comes in complete from animal product in much higher percentage compared to vegetables. So I would choose eggs, I will choose gelatin, I will choose collagen, I will choose whey. Not a big fan of whey because I don't digest it very well, but cricket, I love cricket. And I suggested to my friend, I said, well, break an eggs inside of your smoothie instead of, have your vegan protein powder. It's not like that we don't have a choice nowadays. You get bone broth protein, like I said, eggs, eat more steaks, eat more chicken, eat more fish, and you will have your protein. And the food, you're doing all this process to make it a little bit more bioavailable, but at the end of the day, the percentage of carbohydrate is quite higher in the protein, vegan protein powder, than the protein itself. Is kind of counterproductive if you want a protein and you choose it from vegetables. And again, for a lot of people, although those foods are fermented and they made them more bioavailable, still there could be digestive issues still with those food. If you FODMAP, which is a condition that is a fermentable oligosaccharide, disaccharide, monosaccharide, and polysaccharide short chain carbohydrate, basically you can digest those carbohydrate, which is present in a lot of vegetables, well, then you will still have a bloating, you will still have digestive issue, and so it's not wise to choose that. And so yeah, that's my take on why we should eat some raw food, why raw food from animal sources is, let's say, a bit safer, doesn't imply so many obstacle on the absorption of that food, why cooking it, why soaking it, why fermenting it. And yeah, that's me. My take on this, your takeaway message on this is basically prepare the food wisely. Don't be too strict on anything. If you consume it in a smaller amount, that's fine. But if you're going to consume it a lot, you consume a lot of commercial bread, commercial grain, and you're just cooking it. Yes, it can reduce the phytic acid, but it's much better to soaking it and cooking it. Same for legumes and so forth. Instead, from the animal kingdom, we have a much less problem, complication coming in that regard. So yeah, this is Gio from Rebalancing Health, and keep your life in balance and stay tuned for my next video.